There is a moment in life when you realize that not everyone you meet deserves a place in your world. Some people nourish your spirit, encourage your growth, and support your path. Others, however, do the opposite. They drain your energy, create unnecessary conflict, and pull you away from the person you are striving to become. These are the toxic people who thrive on control, manipulation, and negativity. If you do not learn how to deal with them, you will spend too much of your precious energy trying to manage their behavior instead of directing it toward your own growth. There is one practice, one shift of mindset and action that will ensure they lose their power over you forever. Once you apply it, toxic people will never bother you again. The practice is simple to explain, but requires strength to live. You must establish unshakable boundaries and commit to enforcing them without hesitation. A boundary is not just a rule you set, it is the clear definition of how much access someone has to your time, your energy, and your emotional space. When you fail to set boundaries, you give permission for others to enter your world without limits. Toxic people thrive in such environments because they sense that they can push, manipulate, and control without resistance. But when you draw a clear line and protect it, you change the entire dynamic. You shift from being controlled to being in control. Why is this so powerful? Because toxic people feed off reaction. They seek conflict, they seek drama, and they seek to disrupt your peace. The moment you allow them to pull you into arguments, the moment you bend to their demands, or the moment you let them define your self-worth, they win. But when you refuse to participate, when you refuse to give them the reaction they crave, they lose their power. Setting and holding boundaries means you do not allow their words to decide your mood, their criticism to decide your confidence, or their behavior to decide your path. At first, it will feel difficult, especially if you are used to pleasing others or avoiding confrontation. Toxic people are skilled at guilt, tripping and making you feel responsible for their emotions. They will test your strength the moment you begin to pull away. They may criticize you, they may try to shame you, they may act as though you are the one being unfair. This is where you must hold firm. If you back down, you confirm their belief that their tactics work. But if you stand steady, silent if necessary, they will begin to understand that you are no longer a target for manipulation. The key is not to fight them directly, but to disengage from their game entirely. Boundaries do not always mean cutting people out completely, although sometimes that is necessary. Boundaries mean choosing carefully what you will and will not allow. You might limit the time you spend with certain individuals. You might decide not to answer messages that come with negativity. You might walk away from conversations that devolve into arguments. You might refuse to explain yourself to people who only wish to twist your words. Each of these is a way of reclaiming your power. Toxic people cannot bother you if you no longer give them access to the parts of yourself they once controlled. Some may argue that this approach is harsh, but in reality, it is essential for growth. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary. Without peace, you cannot think clearly, focus deeply, or pursue your goals fully. Toxic interactions consume mental space that could otherwise be used for learning, creating, and connecting with people who truly matter. Every moment spent entangled in unnecessary drama is a moment stolen from your potential. By creating strong boundaries, you are not only protecting yourself from harm, but also opening more space for growth, strength, and meaningful relationships. It is important to understand that boundaries are not about changing toxic people. They are about changing your response to them. You cannot control who others are, but you can control who you allow yourself to be around and how much influence they have over your life. Once you stop trying to change others and instead focus on controlling access to your world, everything shifts. You become calmer, clearer, and more focused. Toxic people may continue to act the same, but you will no longer be affected because they no longer have access to the part of you they once fed on. Think of it like guarding a fortress. Your mind and your energy are the treasures inside. Without walls, anyone can walk in, take what they want, and leave you drained. But when you build strong walls with clear gates, only those you allow can enter. Toxic people may come to the gate and demand entry, but it is no longer your duty to let them in. You owe them nothing. This fortress is your life, and you are the one who decides who gets access. Once you master this, toxic people will find no place within your walls. The most important part of this practice is consistency. A boundary that is set once and broken often is no boundary at all. Toxic people watch closely for cracks in your strength. The moment they see you give in, they know how to exploit it again. But if you remain consistent, no matter how many times they test you, they eventually realize their efforts are wasted. At that point, they either change their behavior because they know manipulation no longer works, or they leave because they cannot control you. Either outcome is a victory for you. There is also a deeper layer to this practice. Boundaries are not just about dealing with others. They are about training yourself. Each time you enforce a boundary, you teach yourself that your peace matters. You teach yourself that your goals, your time, and your energy are valuable. You reinforce the belief that you are not here to be controlled by the negativity of others. This self-respect grows stronger with every boundary you hold, and eventually it becomes a natural part of who you are. Toxic people can sense this strength, and they are less likely to target those who cannot be easily shaken. The beauty of this practice is that it applies to every area of life. In your personal relationships, it protects you from manipulation. In your professional life, it prevents others from taking advantage of your time and effort. In your inner world, it shields you from allowing destructive thoughts planted by others to take root. Once you live with strong boundaries, toxic people may still exist around you, but they will no longer define your experience. Their behavior may continue, but your reaction is different. You are unshaken. So, what does it mean to do this once and never be bothered again? It means that once you fully commit to the mindset of boundaries and enforce it without exception, something inside you shifts permanently. You no longer see yourself as someone who has to tolerate negativity. You no longer believe you owe anyone your energy. You no longer fear walking away from situations that harm you. That one decision, to live with boundaries, is the single act that removes toxic power from your life forever. You may need to practice it daily, but the mental shift is immediate and lasting. Understand this. Toxic people only exist in your life at the level you permit. If they are draining you, it is because you allow it. If they are controlling you, it is because you give them that control. The moment you stop permitting access, the moment you stop reacting, the moment you guard your peace with strength, they lose all influence. You are not at the mercy of their behavior. You are in control of your own world, and so the lesson is simple, but it will transform you if you live it. Establish unshakable boundaries. Refuse to compromise your peace for anyone's negativity. Protect your time, your energy, and your spirit as the treasures they are. Do this once with conviction, and toxic people will never bother you again, because they cannot touch a person who refuses to give them power. From that moment on, your life belongs to you again. The moment you set unshakable boundaries, toxic people lose the power to control your life. This single act, though simple in theory, changes the entire balance of your relationships and the way others interact with you. When you have no boundaries, you leave yourself exposed, open to manipulation, drained by demands, and constantly entangled in conflicts that serve no purpose. Toxic people thrive in those conditions. They sense hesitation, they sense weakness, They sense the inability to say no, and they use it to pull you into their drama. They take advantage of every gap in your defenses, and the more you allow, the deeper their influence grows. But when you set a boundary that is not negotiable, when you decide clearly what you will and will not allow, something shifts. You are no longer playing their game, and without your participation, their control fades. An unshakable boundary is more than a simple line. It is a declaration of self-respect. It says, I value my peace more than I value your approval. I value my growth more than I fear your reaction. I value my time more than I will allow it to be wasted. This declaration is silent yet powerful, and toxic people can feel it. They may push, they may test, they may try to guilt you into returning to your old patterns, but an unshakable boundary is exactly that, unshakable. It does not bend under pressure, and it does not disappear when challenged. It stands firm, and through that firmness you send a clear message. You cannot be controlled. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear confrontation. They fear that others will be angry, that they will be rejected, or that they will lose relationships. But the truth is that any relationship that collapses because you set a healthy boundary is a relationship that was never serving you in the first place. A genuine connection, whether with a friend, a partner, a colleague, or even a family member, does not crumble because you protect your peace. It adjusts, it adapts, and it respects the new line. Toxic people, however, will resist because they only benefit when you have no defenses. Their resistance is not a sign that you are wrong, but a sign that you are finally doing what is right. When you first begin to enforce boundaries, the reactions may be uncomfortable. You might be accused of being cold, distant, selfish, or uncaring. These are tactics meant to pull you back into the cycle of guilt and submission. But remember this, setting boundaries is not about being cruel to others. It is about being kind to yourself. Protecting your peace allows you to show up in the world with clarity, with strength, and with genuine presence. Without boundaries, you are spread too thin, constantly reacting, constantly defending, and constantly drained. With boundaries, you regain control of your focus, your energy, and your choices. That shift is what robs toxic people of their power. Boundaries work because they starve toxicity of its fuel. Toxic behavior needs access. It needs your attention, your reaction, your willingness to engage. By cutting off access, you cut off the supply. Imagine someone constantly trying to light a fire with no oxygen. It cannot burn. In the same way, toxic individuals cannot thrive in your life when they no longer have the space to manipulate, argue, or invade your mind. Over time, they learn that you are no longer someone they can easily influence, and they either adapt to a healthier way of engaging with you or drift away to find someone else who will allow their behavior. Either outcome frees you. This is not about shutting people out of your life unnecessarily. It is about being deliberate with who you allow in and how much influence they have. Not everyone should have equal access to you. Your time, your energy, and your emotions are precious resources, and they should be guarded with care. Unshakable boundaries act as the filter. They allow genuine, supportive people through while keeping manipulation and negativity outside your inner world. This filter ensures that what surrounds you is aligned with your growth rather than working against it. Setting a boundary once can change everything, but keeping it is what makes the change permanent. Toxic people often return to test whether your strength was temporary. If you give in even slightly, they learn that persistence breaks your defense. But if you remain steady each time, no matter how many tests come, they lose interest. They realize there is no longer a reward for their efforts. This is why consistency is so important. A boundary is not something you announce. It is something you live. You don't have to explain it, argue about it, or defend it. You only need to enforce it quietly and consistently, and over time others will adjust, and the change is not only external, it is internal. Each time you set and enforce a boundary, you reinforce a powerful message to yourself. My peace matters, my growth matters, my time matters. You strengthen your self-respect and your confidence. You begin to see yourself as someone who cannot be controlled, someone who stands firm, someone who is not easily shaken. Toxic people sense this shift. They can feel the difference between someone who doubts themselves and someone who knows their worth, and they rarely waste energy on those who cannot be easily swayed. The freedom that comes from unshakable boundaries is profound. Imagine waking up without dreading interactions with certain people. Imagine no longer carrying the weight of someone else's negativity long after the conversation is over. Imagine walking into situations with the quiet confidence that no one can disturb your inner balance without your permission. That is the life boundaries create. It does not mean the world around you changes overnight. It means you change, and in doing so, you change your experience of the world. The moment you set unshakable boundaries, toxic people lose the power to control your life because control requires access, and access is something only you can grant. The more you value your inner world, the less permission you give for others to disrupt it. The stronger you become in protecting your peace, the weaker their influence becomes. Eventually, their power disappears completely, and you stand free, not because toxic people no longer exist, but because they no longer have any hold over you. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is the foundation that allows you to grow stronger every day. Many people are taught to constantly put the needs of others before their own, to always be available, to never say no, to sacrifice their own well-being for the comfort of those around them. On the surface, this may look like kindness, but in reality it slowly empties you. You begin to lose energy, you begin to feel drained, and you begin to notice that no matter how much you give, it is never enough. Protecting your peace is the act of breaking this cycle, not because you want to shut others out, but because you understand that you cannot serve anyone well if you are running on empty. Strength comes from balance, and balance only comes when your inner world is guarded with intention. When you protect your peace, you create space for clarity. Noise, negativity, and constant demands create mental clutter that clouds your ability to think clearly. Toxic environments and draining people thrive on pulling you into confusion and distraction. But when you decide that your peace matters more than their demands, you reclaim the ability to see things for what they are. You begin to notice patterns in behavior, you recognize manipulation more easily, and you can choose your responses from a place of calm rather than from stress. This clarity is not selfish. It is essential for growth. Without it, you are simply reacting to life instead of directing it. Protecting your peace means saying no without apology. It means understanding that your time is limited and that every yes you give to something unimportant is a no to something deeply important. Many people fear saying no because they believe it will make them seem unkind or uncaring, but the truth is the opposite. A person who says yes to everything quickly becomes resentful, exhausted, and unreliable. A person who guards their time, their focus, and their energy becomes someone whose yes actually carries meaning. This is why protecting your peace allows you to grow stronger. It gives you the energy to follow through on what matters, rather than scattering yourself across endless obligations. Every day, life brings challenges, temptations, and people who will test your boundaries. Without peace, each test feels overwhelming. You react impulsively, you make choices out of fear, and you allow stress to dictate your actions. But with peace, you carry an inner stillness that allows you to handle these challenges with control. You no longer jump into every argument. You no longer feel the need to prove yourself, and you no longer allow the emotions of others to dominate your state of mind. This ability to remain centered does not happen by accident. It is the direct result of protecting your peace. Think of peace as the soil in which strength grows. If the soil is full of toxins, weeds, and constant disturbance, nothing strong can take root. But when the soil is cared for, when it is nourished and protected, growth becomes inevitable. The same applies to you. Protecting your peace does not mean avoiding difficulty. It means creating the conditions within yourself to face difficulty with resilience. It means keeping your inner ground steady so that no matter what storm arrives, you remain rooted. That steadiness is what makes you stronger each day. One of the greatest mistakes people make is confusing self-protection with selfishness. Selfishness is taking from others without regard. Protecting your peace is not about taking. It is about preserving what is already yours so that you can give in a sustainable way. Imagine pouring water from a cup that is already empty. You will give nothing to anyone. But when you take care of yourself, when you protect your mental state, when you shield your energy from unnecessary drains, your cup stays full. From that fullness, you can give without resentment, you can contribute without collapse, and you can be present without being overwhelmed. Protecting your peace also teaches others how to treat you. When you allow constant disrespect, people learn that you are someone who accepts it. When you allow your boundaries to be ignored, people learn that your words have no weight. But when you protect your peace, when you step away from toxic dynamics, when you calmly enforce what is acceptable, people are forced to adjust. Some may resist, some may leave, but those who remain will learn that your presence comes with respect. This shift alone eliminates much of the unnecessary conflict in life, because others recognize that you are not someone who tolerates chaos. The strength that grows from protecting your peace is not loud. It does not need to shout, it does not need to fight, it does not need to constantly prove itself. It is quiet, steady, and undeniable. You walk differently when you carry peace within you. You speak differently. You think differently. You move through challenges without losing your center, and that makes you unshakable in ways that others cannot understand. This quiet strength is what makes your growth sustainable. It is not built on temporary bursts of motivation, but on the daily choice to protect what matters most. Every day you protect your peace, you grow stronger in ways that are not immediately visible. You begin to notice that arguments that once consumed you no longer affect you. You realize that opinions that once controlled your mood no longer matter. You find that situations which used to leave you anxious now leave you calm. These are signs of true growth, and they are the direct result of consistently choosing to protect your peace. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes, until it is no longer something you force, but something you embody. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is an act of responsibility. It is the recognition that your mind, your energy, and your time are the foundations of your life. If those foundations are constantly shaken, you will always feel unstable. But if they are steady, you can build anything upon them. Goals, relationships, dreams, and challenges. Everything you desire in life requires strength, and strength requires peace. Each day that you choose to protect it, you are not retreating from life. You are preparing yourself to live it fully. So when someone tells you that protecting your peace is selfish, understand that they may simply be uncomfortable because they can no longer take advantage of your lack of boundaries. When someone resists your decision to guard your inner world, remember that their reaction reveals more about their dependence on your weakness than about your strength. And when you feel guilty for putting yourself first, remind yourself that growth does not come from constant sacrifice, It comes from balance, clarity, and discipline. The truth is simple. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is the foundation that allows you to grow stronger every day. Without it, you are at the mercy of the world around you. With it, you direct your life with calm, with clarity, and with power. And each day you make this choice, you become a little stronger, a little wiser, and a little freer.